so our lesson this evening, we're going to go into the GPS selling system. We're going to go into the second appointment. Now, the second appointment is, many of you have heard of GPS 101, GPS 102, and GPS 103. Well, for the most part, what I went over last week was GPS 101. Today, we're going to go over what would be GPS 102, which is basically your second appointment. What does it really sets the GPS system apart from most sales systems? Well, one aspect of that is a two-appointment approach. Having your first appointment where it's really more about building rapport and information gathering and getting the information you need to be able to run an analysis and build the rapport with the client and build the trust. And it's something I wanted to make sure that everybody understood. Unlike any other product I've ever sold in my life, and I've been with this company now almost 20 years. Well, actually, January will be 20 years. This is a sale of trust. The client must trust you. They must trust what you're offering. They must trust the path that you have taken them down. So it's very important in this particular sale that you do create things like rules of engagement. You do follow a process and a sequence of events so they know that the prospect knows that you have a process that you're going to go through with them and that they have certain rights inside of this process. They can ask certain things of you inside of this process because, like I said, trust is where this sale comes together. And this GPS system is a give and take of little closes, little trusting moments, little, I'll give you this if you give me this. And that begins to build that trust and build the rapport with the client. So I wanted you to really understand that one of the big differentiations between GPS selling system and maybe any other selling system you've seen is it does incorporate that two-appointment process. Now, I said this last week, if you are out there selling and you're out there doing this as a business right now and you are successful, you're seeing the type of success that you want to see, I do not want you to change anything you're doing. I'm not coming on here trying to tell you that what you're doing is not right, that it won't work, that it's not doing a good job. If you're making the kind of money that you want to make, you're building the team, people are getting trained, I don't want to tell you to stop. One of the biggest problems in entrepreneurial sales and direct sales, when people are interviewed, agents are interviewed, and people that have been involved in this, one of the biggest problems is what's called the starting and stopping syndrome. You get somebody started, you get them going, and all of a sudden you go, no, wait. I don't want you to do it that way. I want you to do it this way. Well, that's one of the most dangerous things that you can do to your organization. If you have a process that is working right now, stay with your process, continue making money, and refine it. What we have found with the GPS selling system for the brand new person coming on board, for the average individual coming on board, this is the most effective sales system that we've ever put in place across the board for people that may have no experience to a lot of experience. Have we seen other methods that work? Yes. Have we seen other methods that are as effective as this? No. So I just want to be very, very careful with that. Now, I know there's some very large organizations inside our company right now that are closing on a one-appointment system. And they're very successful at doing that. And again, I am not the person that's going to call them and say, hey, you're not doing two appointments, so I want you to undo everything you're doing and start doing it this way. No, that's the starting and stopping syndrome. So when we talk about certified field trainers, when we talk about you becoming a certified field trainer, the process that you need to learn, the videos that you're going to watch to get your eventual certification after you've done your split sales and your personal sales, and then you watch 101, 102, and 103. 101, 102, and 103 will be based in the GPS selling system, and it will be adopting that two-appointment close. That's what you will be certified to do. What you do from that point as far as what your team is doing, what you're seeing great success with, that is truly up to you. But do remember, it is the most effective system that we have seen. My opinion is just too much information. Try to close in that first appointment, but maybe that is a downfall on my part. I've always used the GPS system, and I always used a two-appointment close. So, all right, when we ended last week, what we said just before we got off there is before you leave this appointment, you want to make sure that you have the commitment from the client And you want to make sure that you set your second appointment. You do not want to leave this first appointment without setting your second appointment and having a confirmation of that appointment. So what you're asking the client is, when you're trying to set an appointment, if you look in the agent back office, what you will find is that we have a actual training in the agent back office called Setting the Appointment in Stone. I would truly advise that you go and watch Setting the Appointment in Stone. It's a news tab, agent back office news tab, and you can search under there and type in words. So type in Setting the Appointment. And it takes you through a process. Now, anybody can set an appointment. What the true thing is do you have a good attendance record for your appointments? Do a lot of people show up to your appointments? And that's what will truly make the difference. So always only give them 2 options for your next meeting. One would be a good time for you. I have openings Tuesday at 5, Thursday at 12 noon. Now remember, this is where we left off last week. Get a definite confirmation from the customer and make sure all parties will be present. We talked about last week the fact that having a one-legged appointment doesn't do anybody any good. It always gives the client an out, I need to defer to my partner. I need to discuss this with them. It's a great way out. But what we do at the end of that appointment, after we've made our confirmation, we've set that appointment, we're going to leave them with a statement, kind of a soft closing, and I call it a doorknob close, but it's also kind of an if I could, would you, but the way this is being done is right at the end of the appointment, which is more of a doorknob close. Oh, by the way, if I could knock 5 years off of your debt and save you, I don't know, $50,000 in interest, is there any reason you would not want to do business with me? Now, I saw this last week, other than price, of course. Me personally, I never even brought that up or put other than price, of course. I know why it's there is to alleviate some of the pressure from the client, but I want you to be aware that you could put yourself in a position right there, other than, when you say other than price, of course, that they could right at the very end of the appointment sidetrack everything and go, well, how much does it cost? And then you have to go through the whole conversation of, well, we understand the price based on what the analysis says, so it's on a sliding scale. It can be anywhere from $1,400 to $3,700. I don't know if you want to open that door at the end of your first appointment or not. Me personally, I never did. I do understand it's there and why it's there, but my way of saying this would be, oh, by the way, if I could knock 5 years off of your debt and save you $50,000 in interest, would there be any reason you wouldn't want to do business with me? Would there be any reason you wouldn't want to have the Money Max account program helping you with your finances? Is there any reason you wouldn't want to incorporate my program into your financial journey to debt elimination, debt freedom, financial security? Okay, so this is what you left them with. All right, so in the second appointment, when you first get there, one of the first things that you want to do is, if you're doing it by webinar, make sure you greet everybody. Make sure you welcome everybody. Thank you so much for your time, for getting on the webinar tonight. I just want to make sure, can you see me okay? Can you hear my voice okay? Just make sure you do, kind of a sound check with them to make sure that everything is okay on their side, and then make sure you thank them for taking their time. If you're meeting in person, hopefully you're meeting in the same place, your office or their home, and meet in the same place you met the first time, unless it was really distracting, but hopefully you took care of that. Meet in the office or meet in the kitchen, around the kitchen table, somewhere where they feel comfortable and confident, but you're going to not have a whole lot of distractions, but have convenience, to getting water or, bathroom or whatever they need to use. What you want to do is, when you first sit down with them, just make sure, just say, listen, I just want to reaffirm our rules of engagement. And, you don't really have to say the rules of engagement. You just say, I just want to reaffirm some of the things that we talked about last week. And one of those was, I told you about my appointment process, that our first appointment, is that I do a 2-appointment process. And usually by the end of the second appointment, my prospects, my clients have a very good idea if it is a no or a yes for them. Always putting the no first. That way it disarms the client, saying that, as I mentioned to you last week, if at the end of the second appointment, if you think it's a no, please be candid enough to tell me a no. If at any point we feel like we're getting off subject, please be candid enough to bring me back in the subject, and I will do the same for you. If at the end of this appointment you really do need to think about it, then we can schedule a third appointment, but I very rarely go past a third appointment. Let's go ahead and does that sound good to you? Does that sound fine? Does that sound like what we discussed? Yes. In this appointment, we want to confirm the analysis numbers are accurate from the last appointment. If you could not demo the program or they weren't able to watch the demo, try to make the time to demo the program. But listen, I want you to understand on this second appointment, if you get there with the client, you go over the numbers and they're like hot to trot and they're ready to go, and they don't need a whole lot of additional information, don't sit there and feel like you got to check this list off. If they're ready to go, if they give you a good temperature of 1 to 10 and they're a definite yes and they understand what's happening with the program, move forward, close the deal. Don't worry about having to demo or do any of that nonsense. A live demonstration. This is the live presentation. Now, there's been a lot of talk in the field, do we show them the written, analysis report, or do we do the live presentation, which is the slides in the back office? I will tell you the slides in the back office make you look a lot more professional. The slides in the back office flow very, very well for the client. And the amount of information that's on the written analysis can be a little bit overwhelming. Me personally, I like doing both. I like the live presentation, take the client through, but I like having a paper copy that if they sign, I can give it to them. If they sign on the dotted line and say, yeah, I want to buy, I want to give them a copy of that analysis, the actual printed out analysis paperwork with the balance sheet printed out on it as well. The converse to that is if they don't buy, I never give them that analysis worksheet. I never give them the analysis worksheet until they have actually purchased. I say that is my product, even if I've showed it to them. If they do not purchase, I do not leave it with them, because if I do, they have no reason to call me back. They're going to go to everybody they know and try to make sense of what I've shown them on the analysis worksheet, okay? So the live presentation works really well. You should be closing with a scale of 1 to 10. If I could, would you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with it? How confirmed are you? Show their analysis report if needed. That's what the GPS system says. I like showing both. I like going through both of them, but the live presentation is the more important of the two to take the client through. There is something about once you've sold the deal, leaving them the analysis report that has a lot to be said with it, that you actually did some work and they can see it and they have something tangible in their hand. Okay, so in reviewing the rules of engagement, when you get with them and you're sitting down with them, are there any questions that have arisen since we were last together? And if they say there were, make sure that you write those down. There's one other question that I like to ask right here as well, which is, what did you like the best about our meeting last week? What did you like the best about the videos that I sent you to watch in between this meeting and the last meeting? What did you like the best about what you heard last week? And the reason I like to ask that question, not just what questions have arisen, but what did you like best, is it's going to tell me what's important to them. It's going to help me to kind of tailor my presentation and my closing to what is important and valuable to them individually. So whatever questions they have, write it down. Whatever it is they say they like the best or whatever, write that down. And make sure that if they did have questions, you can't blow these questions off. Say something to the effect of, great, I'll answer those questions as we go along. As you probably remember from our last meeting, I tend to ask a lot of questions. Are you still comfortable with that? And wait for them to respond. Always wait for the client to respond. Asking permission of the client is a great way to gain their trust and a great way for them not to feel, as we mentioned last week, we don't want them to feel pushed into the sale. We want them to rather fall into the sale. We want the client to say everything that we want them to say, to agree to everything we want them to agree to, but say it out of their own words, of their own volition, okay? So now comes that question when what we asked them last week, you're going to bring it back. This is where this now becomes the closing question. Do you remember saying in our last meeting that if I could save you, I don't know, 5 years and maybe $50,000 in interest on your debts, that there was not any reason you wouldn't want to do business with me? Has anything changed in that regard? and wait for them to respond. If they say, no, I feel comfortable with that, or they could come back and say, you mentioned price. Do you have any idea of what this is going to cost us? You're going to have to answer that question, but at this point, I'd probably say, well, let's go ahead and review the information and let's see what the program is going to cost you where we came out, okay? Many times the clients get so outrageously excited with the information and what they're seeing that they forget questions that they asked earlier. What was a concern earlier is not as big of a concern now when they see this. If the client does not recycle back to that question and they're ready to move forward with the sale, don't just bring up an earlier objection because you didn't answer it and they didn't ask it again, okay? So it's always good to leave that first appointment with leaving some type of soft close like we've left here. Wait for them to answer, and they come back and say, no, nothing's changed. I feel good about it. All right. So now we're going to say, okay, reviewing these rules of engagement, still where we are. Perfect. How about we do this today? Let's review the information gathered last time to make sure it's all correct and that we're still on the same page. Then I can talk to you about how this program will work for you and how it can help you reach your goals from X, Y, Z, whatever the goals were you wrote down for the client, through their truth funnel, what they were trying to accomplish by coming to the table initially with the program. What was important to them? Why were they looking at this program in the first appointment? Remember we said in that first appointment, if you don't have a clear why on the table at the end of that first appointment, you don't have a sale. You have to have a clear why. They have to have a reason along the way. What I'm going to do is I'll answer all of the questions you just raised. Would that be a fair game plan? Now, if you look at what's written on the screen there, you're going to see to most people that would be very reasonable. That's a very good game plan. Why are you taking this approach of confirming the information with them again? Well, it's one, obviously, to see if anything actually has changed. But the biggest reason, and I know it's going to sound a little cruel, but people that have been in sales understand this, it's making them feel the pain. It's bringing back the realization of what their current situation is. Remember, we talked last week that people usually change based on pain and pleasure. Well, what was it? Was it painful or was it pleasurable? And most people that are in debt, it's painful. So you're bringing them back to why they looked at this program in the first place. You're making them relive that experience of how bad their debt is or how much money they're sending to back or how much additional money they're paying in interest so that they don't need to pay because of the reality of what this program is. And then you're telling them, look, I'm going to explain everything as we go through this process that relates to the goals you were trying to achieve and how this program is going to do it. And along the way, I'm going to answer the questions that you had raised in our first meeting and potentially the questions you've raised in this meeting. And what are you telling the client here? I am here to serve you. I'm here to give you information. I'm here to try to better your situation. You're not being pushy. You're not being gaudy. You're not being haughty. You're not putting the information in their face, but you are forcing them to go back and relive their situation to understand the reality of why it is they sat down for the program in the first place. So in the review of the rules of engagement, oh, by the way, if I start going in the wrong direction or the program is not for you, I hope you'll be candid enough to tell me right away, okay? Seems like a good statement. Likewise, if I think you are doing something that won't benefit you, I'm going to be candid with you as well. Is that fair enough? Again, always answer. Now, look, I know all of this sounds like, yeah, right, Mac. Like I'm actually going to say all of those individual terms. I'm going to memorize this. No, you need to memorize the sequence. And you need to memorize the majority of the wording in here. Make it your own. You may say, hey, look, if I start going in the wrong direction, are you going to be fair enough with me just to tell me that this isn't for you? I mean, you could say it exactly that way. And likewise, look, if I see that what we're coming up with here doesn't really look like it's going to benefit you, please know that I'm going to tell you. You've already let them know it's okay hearing the word no. Now what you're letting them know is, look, just let's be relational with each other. Just tell me how you're feeling as you're going through this process and if this seems like it's fitting for you. And if it's not, feel free to be able to tell me that you don't think this is for you. I'm okay with that. I'd much rather do that than we go through 3 or 4 appointments and then you have a fear of telling me, the true answer. I have to think about it, and then I don't return your calls for a month and a half, and then that's just a done deal. I'd rather leave as friends. I'd rather part with a handshake with everything good, okay? Okay, so usually by the end of this meeting or the next, my clients are in a position to tell me whether or not the program is right for them or not. If it's not, again, I hope you'll be candid. I'm really okay with people telling me no, okay? On the other hand, if the plan is right for you, what we would do would be go ahead and do the paperwork. I want you to know that if we have to have another meeting after today, that is perfectly okay with me. So you're letting them know, usually by the end of this, people that it's for are like ready to go and they tell me let's move forward. And people that it's really not for, no, they'll either tell me no or they might tell me, I just truly need to think about this a little longer and I want that third appointment. Here comes the kicker question. Do you see any reason why we could not get a clear no or yes by the end of this or our next meeting? Make sure you ask them that question. Make sure you make them respond to that and write that down. No, I don't see any reason why we couldn't. Okay, great. Let's get started. All right? And that's where we are with our client. Now we're getting into the mix of this. Confirm that the numbers are correct. This is the information that is loaded into the program they buy and also determines pricing. So you can review this by going through the analysis piece by piece and going and saying, was the mortgage still here and the interest rate was still here and this was your payment and all this is good. You can do it by pulling up the summary and going through each one of the summary items, or you can do it by pulling up your analysis results and going over some of those numbers with them, not showing them the analysis. But your best way to do this is to go through the summary line by line. I know that sounds tedious, but again, what you're doing is you're making them relive the processes they went through to bring them to the table in the first place. What you want to do in this meeting is demo the program and show the live presentation. The live presentation obviously is more important than the demo, but I can tell you right now, if the people are even in the least bit on the fence or kind of in the dark about how the program operates, doing a live demo form or showing them the live demo, I've always felt is the best way to really bring light to this product and how it operates. Use the auto-populated slides in the analysis. Use your, your slide show. A lot of psychology has gone into that. It's very appealing to the eye. And the fact that it loads the client's data really makes the client, feel important and special that their information was integrated into a system. Take time to explain each slide. Don't just, hit the slide and just say, oh, yeah, so, this one says that you're going to pay $1.22 in interest for every dollar in principal that you pay down, or you're going to pay $3 in interest for every dollar you pay down. Explain to them what that means. Explain to them on each slide what that slide means to them in relation to their truth funnel and the goals that they were trying to achieve. Also explain what the slide means in its actuality and reality. What you're doing is reopening the wound for them to feel the pain, and you're also proactively eliminating some of the price objections. Look, I had somebody ask me a question one time and said, Mac, I just find it hard to believe that you never had anyone object to the price. And I said to him, it's not that I never had anyone object to the price, it's that I set up the sale so strong that by the time we came down to price, it was not an issue anymore. I don't know a single client that when he heard the $3,500 or $4,000 price tag didn't kind of go, whoa, wow. But if you set the sale up properly, if you're an advocate for the client and you walk them through this process and you utilize this GPS system and you say the language that we've talked about on the first appointment and you use the language in the sequence of events that we're talking about in the second appointment, and you're truly building value as you go through and you're answering their questions and you're making them feel the pain and the reality and you're answering their why, when you get down to that price, it is such a non-entity. It doesn't matter. It pales in comparison. It almost gets that thing where you want to say to the client, look, if $3,500 is really that big of an objection, I mean, I'm going to save you $180,000, okay? Can we just say I'm going to save you $176,500? and we'll call it even because the program is going to cost you $35, so let's just take that off the top. So I'm going to save you $136,500. I mean, $166,500 instead of $170,000. How about this one? Would you honestly let $3,500 stand in the way of you saving $160,000? Would you honestly allow a $3,500 investment stand in the way of you getting back $165,000? So there's a lot of different ways that you can put that to the client and really kind of move them through the process. But I will tell you, if they just lock down on price, somewhere along the line you didn't answer something, somewhere along the line you didn't build value, it may be time to go back to the beginning and ask some questions, look at your notes, and see if you can find out where you went sideways. Now, throughout the process, you're going to be closing with a scale of 1 to 10. Whenever you feel you're not sure about what your client is thinking, take their temperature. You'll get a lot more information and guidance from them. In many cases, your clients will actually tell you how they want to be sold or what you need to do. So, I mean, you just raise this question this way. So, Mr. Jones, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 meaning this is simply not for you, and 10 meaning that this is a great fit and plan, where do you stand? And many times they'll say, well, I'm a 5. Okay, or they may say I'm a 3, or they may something like that. So if the prospect says less than a 5, back away from the sale. Assume that there will be too many obstacles to overcome with such a low evaluation, but please do not fail to ask this question. Oh, okay, so you're a 3. With such a low number like a 3, I get the feeling you really don't have much interest in this. Is that a fair statement? And they may come back to you and say, no, I have interest. I just don't understand how the line of credit works to cancel interest. I don't understand using 10% money to pay out 6% money. I don't understand how the checking and savings operates. I don't understand. Find out what it was that had them give you a low number. Then find out what they would have need to see or hear to get that higher number. Find out. You can ask them in this way, and it works great. This is my job, or I do this for a living, so I'm trying to support my family with this, okay? So say something to the effect of, this is my job. I support my family with this business, and just like you, I want to get better at my job. I'm always striving to do better, and I think you do the same thing, Mr. John Q. customer. What would you have had to see or had to have heard in order to move forward to make that 3, a 7? To make you want to move forward. Where did I lose you, or where did we get off track? And let them answer you. Let them tell you where they feel this went sideways or what they didn't understand. Or they could just come back and go, no, I don't really think it's for me. I don't see myself, updating a program, every week or every month. Yeah, I want to get out of debt, but I'm not very detail oriented. Yeah, I like the numbers there, but, I really am wondering if I'm ever going to use this thing. Whatever it is, once they give you that piece of information, now the sale is back on. It's not that you wrap up at that point and go, oh, okay, well, thank you for that information. Sorry I couldn't help you. Whatever they give you, whatever it is that they say to you, that they didn't understand or where you lost them, the sale is back on to get them to understand that point and try to move the process forward. Using that scale of 1 to 10 throughout the entire sales process is a good thing for you to do. It's a great way to check their temperature and just see how they're doing throughout the process. So if the prospect says a 5 or a 7, show them their analysis report and then take their temperature again. Okay, great. I just want to make sure you see the report, and this is how much money we're going to save you and how much time, and that we're all good and all these numbers are accurate. The reason you want to do this is because whatever you have in that analysis report, whatever you accept, whatever you go to the cash register with, that is what is going to get loaded to the program. And one of the biggest holdups that we have with coaching sometimes is the client will get on the phone and they'll say, well, those aren't all of my real numbers. And that's not the salesman's fault, because the salesman, tried to get the best numbers they could, but the client was just being round. So many times, the more detailed that you can be with those numbers, the more accurate you can be with those numbers, the better that it is for support in the setup of the program. If the client isn't ready to do the paperwork, but they're still interested, ask them what they need to see to get a 10 and then set up that third appointment. Or maybe it's something very simple that you can show them right there and you can actually close them right there. But if it's something you're going to have to prepare for, you're going to have to look up, you're going to have to get answers, set that third appointment. And then if at the end of the third appointment they still aren't ready to do the paperwork, then say, remember, you know, pardon me. At the end of that third appointment, if they still aren't ready to do the paperwork, then say something to them like, you know, remember when we talked about taking up to 3 meetings to decide if this was for you? Do you really want to set a fourth appointment, or shall we shake hands and part as friends right here, right now? Let's just end the process. Or is it truly that you need to think about it? Give them that ability to have that out again. Here's what you don't want to do. You do not want to convince anyone that this program is for them. That convincing is different than selling. You do have to sell. But you don't want to convince. Somebody's going, you know what, I just don't think I'm going to use it. I don't think this is right for me. Don't tell them, well, what if you did this, and what if you did that, and what if you, cut here, and, well, I don't really know if I have $100 left over at the end of the month. It might be zero. Well, what if you didn't spend on this and spend on that, and what if you became an agent with the company and commit? Don't do that. Okay? Be direct with people. Be fair with people. Give them the out if they need the out. Close with that scale of 1 to 10. If the prospect says, I'm an 8 to 10, let them tell you what they think the next step is. Generally, most of my clients who say they're an 8 or 10 are ready to move forward. So what do you think we should do next? Me personally, I say, most of my clients that are 8 to 10 are ready to move forward. And I usually will just say to them, here is your next step. The next step is we need to process your payment. After that, we're going to sit down together and create your username and password. I'm going to get your coaching schedule, your coaching set up. I'm going to get that scheduled for you before we leave. And we're going to give you confirmation of receipts and emails to make sure that everything is up to snuff, that everything is done. We've dotted the I's, crossed the T's, and you're up and running and ready to go. So, Mr. Customer, are you ready to go? One of your most effective ways of closing this is just assume the sale. At the very end, if they give you good numbers, they give you good answers, just say, look, why don't we just move forward and get you set up? Are you ready to start receiving your savings today? Are you ready today to stop spending all of that additional money in interest? Are you ready today to begin your journey of financial freedom with United Financial Freedom? Are you ready to begin that journey today? I'm excited for you because I'm ready for you to begin that journey today. Let's go ahead. Let's get you set up. Let's get you activated. Let's get these items all set up for you, and let's get you on your way. Everybody, I want to thank you so much for joining me this evening. It's always a pleasure for me. I love doing these calls for each and every one of you. That was your GPS selling system, and that was the GPS selling system 102. Now, I do want you all to make sure that you are fully aware, by being on last week's video and this video, that did not qualify as you watching 101 and 102. There is a process that you have to go through to watch 101 and 102, and that is a proctored process so that we know that you're actually on there watching it. So for everybody that was on the call, I want to thank you all so much for joining me. Let's get out there and do it big. Let's get out there and do it right. But at the very least, let's get out there and do something right now. This is Max Saunders saying bye-bye for now.